It is 2 in the morning and you are still awake. Not because of noise, not because of pain, but because of a single sentence your mind decided to play on repeat. You build a courtroom in your skull, and you put yourself on trial for a crime nobody else even remembers. Picture a man named Daniel. Last Thursday, he gave a presentation. Near the end, he stumbled on one number, corrected himself, and moved on. The room forgot it in 4 seconds. Daniel has not forgotten it since. Lying in bed, he plays the stumble over and over, inventing a future where this half-second pause costs him a promotion. By 2 in the morning, he has constructed a complete career collapse. Ask Daniel what he is doing, and he will tell you he's being responsible. He is taking his career seriously. He tells himself this is how careful, thorough people think, and that holding himself to a high standard requires this kind of intense self-review. But look closely at his underlying process. He is not preparing a follow-up. He isn't rehearsing a fix. He is not solving anything. He is running a wheel, and every rotation just digs the rut deeper into the mud. Intellectual people often assume they are simply thinking more deeply than everyone else. In reality, they are trapped. The very tool they keep reaching for, sharper analysis and more thought, is the exact thing holding the door shut. To find the exit, you first have to see what is actually happening when your mind refuses to let go. There are 2 kinds of inner talk that happen in the dark. From the inside, they feel almost identical, but they lead to completely different destinations. The first is brooding. Brooding is heavy and passive. It points inward and accuses. It asks questions that have no answers. Why does this always happen to me? What is wrong with me? It spins in place, gathering weight, but never reaching a conclusion. The second is reflection. Reflection is active. It points forward and asks a highly specific question. What actually happened here, and what can I do differently next time? Reflection moves toward a concrete outcome. Brooding provides a comfortable substitute for the friction of real life. A man can spend hours replaying an argument in the safety of his own head, effectively avoiding the one difficult phone call that might actually settle it. The mind chooses the loop because the loop feels like effort without the cost of action. A disciplined mind is not an empty mind. The goal is to catch yourself in the act, recognize which of these 2 paths you are walking down, and stop brooding so you can start reflecting. Knowing the difference rarely feels like enough, because brooding does not feel like a choice. It feels like getting grabbed by something outside of your control, and there is a biological reason for that sensation. When you stop engaging with the world and sit in the dark with nothing to do, a specific network in your brain automatically switches on. It begins running self-referential thoughts about you, your past, and your worries. Call it the idle channel. In a mind untrained to handle it, this idle channel becomes overactive. The engine drops into neutral and revs hard. The track plays louder, longer, and loops the same worries without end. Clinical researchers found that people prone to this kind of looping share a specific trait: negative stickiness. Show them a sad face, and their attention lingers there longer than it should. The exit door from a negative thought is physically heavier for them. They cannot easily disengage. When you lie awake convinced you are solving a crisis, you are often experiencing a mechanical glitch. The engine is spinning. That is not a character flaw. It is simply an untrained brain doing what it does when left alone in the dark. If it is just a mechanical glitch, the instinct is to muscle through it. Every disciplined man has lain in bed commanding his mind to shut up. So why does fighting it never work? Because suppression is not control. When you wrestle a thought, you are still holding the thought. You grab the rope, and the rope grabs back. The command to stop thinking is in itself just more thinking. This stickiness gets dramatically worse when your discipline tank is empty. All day long, structure and momentum kept your idle channel quiet. But at 2 in the morning, exhausted and depleted, your least defended self is left alone with the stickiest version of its own attention. You cannot use the loop to escape the loop. The more you use thought to fight thought, the louder the noise gets. The loop feeds on your mental effort, the way a fire feeds on oxygen. If you cannot outthink it and you cannot fight it, you have to use a different move entirely. Psychologists call it diffusion. It is the act of stepping back far enough to look at your thoughts instead of looking out from them. Cognitive fusion is when your mind predicts a failure and you experience it as an ironclad fact about the future. Diffusion breaks that grip. You step back and recognize the thought as just language, just a passing sound, weather moving through your mind. This psychological tool has ancient roots. 2,000 years ago, Emperor Marcus Aurelius ruled the largest empire on Earth, and he recorded a brutally practical method for dealing with an overloaded mind. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." He is drawing a hard border between the things you can act on and the things you cannot. Through this lens, you see exactly what brooding is. It is your attention trespassing into territory you do not control. The conversation already happened. The mistake is already made. The loop keeps you relitigating a closed case, burning fuel on a road you cannot drive. The Stoic move is simple. Ask yourself, is this in my control? If it is, stop brooding and take action. If it is not yours to carry. You set it down. Let's return to Daniel. He has spent years allowing the presentation catastrophe loop to run his nights. Breaking that habit requires more than just knowing a theory. The first night Daniel tries the Stoic move, he fails. The loop grabs him, and he loses 2 hours to the same old career collapse story. The stickiness of his attention is too strong for a single night's willpower to overcome. On the second night, he catches the mental tape earlier. He names the thought. There is the career story. He has to name it a dozen times as it tries to pull him back in, creating a sliver of distance each time. He is no longer fully inside the thought. He is watching it run. By the third night, he identifies the loop and asks the Stoic question. Is the past presentation in his control? No. He decides to send one clarifying email in the morning. With that action decided, the noise doesn't vanish, it just gets quieter. He has successfully moved the wheel out of the rut, though the path remains muddy. Bending a habit of attention back into shape takes weeks of deliberate training. This is a sequence of mental reps performed in the dark, night after night, until the mind finally accepts its new direction. It is quiet, unglamorous work. It happens in total silence, at 2 a.m, where no one can see you choose to let the thought float by without reaching out to grab it. Overthinking feels permanent, but it is just a habit of attention, and habits bend to deliberate reps. The loop does not get the final word. You do.